दृश्यमाननगरी तुल्यन्निजान्तर्गतं पश्यन्नात्मनि मायया बहिर्वोद्भूतं यथा निद्रया यः साक्षात् कुरुते प्रबोधसमये स्वात्मानमेवाद्वयं तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये बीजस्यान्तरिवाङ्कुरो जगदिदं प्राङ्निर्विकल्पं पुनः मायाकल्पितदेशकालकलना वैचित्रचित्रीकृतं मायावीव विजृम्भयत्यपि महायोगी वयस्वेच्छया तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्तिः 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 सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् Om. So welcome to this session of studying the text called Atmabodha. We'll be seeing this text in this first camp, and then the next, for the 2 weeks we will have this the study of this book called Atmabodha. Now this text Atmabodha is written by Adi Shankaracharya himself, and it is treated as by many acharyas as an introductory Vedantic manual. We call it as a Prakarana Grantha, and the definition of Prakarana Grantha is given in this Parashara Upapuranam as Shastra Ekadesha Sambaddham Shastra Karyantare Sthitam Ahuhu Prakaranam Nama Grantha Veda Vipaschitah. So, the Prakarana Grantha is any auxiliary text or any supporting text written by any Acharya for understanding the main source of Vedanta, that is Upanishad. Main text of Vedanta is the Upanishad themselves. They are the Moola Grantha. And for which Moola Grantha, for which the author is not known. So Upanishad belongs to Veda, and author of Veda is unknown. And so we give that authorship of the Veda to the Lord himself. And so Moola Granthas do not have any author, and we call them, that is how we call them, as a Apaurusheya Grantha. Because the matter which is there, the subject matter which is present in the Vedas is definitely not a product of a human intellect. And therefore, we call Vedas as Apaurusheya Pramanam. Vedas is a means of knowledge, which is not, which gives a knowledge which is not available to the human means of knowledge. And of course, this Prakarana Grantha, which is based on the Vedanta, of course, and discusses certain subject matter of the Vedanta, that is Paurusheya Grantha, written by many Acharyas. And this Atmabodha is, of course, written by our Adi Shankaracharya. And why are they writing? Well, because they want to clarify certain, clarify certain points from the original text. Now, these Prakarana Granthas are basically twofold, and some of them are introductory Granthas, in which, which are generally studied before studying the Upanishads. Example of such Prakarana Granthas are Tattva-bodha, which we already have studied. Then Atma-bodha, which we are right now studying. Also, Viveka Chudamani also is considered as this type of a Prakarana Grantha, which is introductory Grantha. Lagud Vasudeva Mananam also is considered a introductory Grantha, Vedantic Grantha. And this is one type of Prakarana Granthas. Well, there are so many Prakarana Granthas which teach the whole. Let me talk about the first one. So there are so many Pragranthas which definitely teach the whole system of Vedanta in a very simple manner, like Tattva-bodha, Atma-bodha, etc. Many elaborate arguments are avoided, logic is avoided, and discussion on other systems of philosophy also is avoided there. That is an introductory Prakarana Grantha in which these things are there. And there are other set of Prakarana Granthas as well, in which generally come after the study of the Upanishads, which are meant to stabilize in our mind the teaching of Upanishads, and there lots of arguments are involved, and every Upanishadic principle could be questioned. Even other systems of philosophy also, like Sankhya, Nayayika, etc., Nyaya, etc., are taken into account. And even other interpretation of this Vedanta itself, like Vishishta Advaitin and Dvaitin, etc., also has been discussed. I request all of you not to talk because I am unable to mute all of you, so I request you. So anyway, there is and right now this kind of Prakarana Grantha we are studying already. Panchadashi is this kind of a Grantha, in which there is a lot of logic is involved, and that is just to clarify the Upanishad teaching. There are so many doubts pertaining to the Upanishad teaching, and therefore such Prakarana Granthas which are not introductory. It's a second type of Prakarana Grantha, and Naishkarana Siddhi also is considered that kind of a Grantha. So what happens is here in this type of Prakarana Grantha, basically with a lot of arguments and logic, other systems of philosophy are rejected, other interpretations are also dismissed. And even in this kind of Prakarana Granthas, they include even Siddhi Granthas also, Advaita Siddhi, Brahma Siddhi, etc., which is not in our purview at all. So anyway, but most of the time in this Prakarana Grantha, a lot of logic is involved in order to refute the other systems of philosophy, etc. Anyway, so there are two types of Prakarana Granthas, and Atmabodha happens to be the first type of Prakarana Grantha. And so we need not be frightened, and therefore it's an introductory. And and here the essence of the principles of Vedanta is given. Now I would like to give some of features of Atmabodha first, and then I would like to tell you why Atmabodha is not studied first and Tattva-bodha is studied first, etc. So there are three important features of this Atmabodha. Well, first is it consists of all Vedantic topics in a very comprehensive manner. It's in very short. Vivek Chudamani also deals with all topics of Vedanta, but there are 600 verses. Whereas here it is just in just 68 verses. All the Vedantic principles have been discussed. Now, so there is a first feature, comprehensiveness. Second feature is, all topics are dealt with beautiful examples. It is given in a verse form, and and that too in a Anushtup Chanda. And what happens is in Anushtup Chanda there are 4 charanams, 4 padas, 4 sections, very well. Like our Bhagavad Gita. Dharma kshetre kurukshetre samavetayu yutsavah mamakav pandavashchaiva kimakurvata sanjaya. There are 4 parts. So what is here also in this Atmabodha, it is in verse form, and that to Anushtup Chanda, and there are 4 parts. The first 2 parts reveals a particular idea of a Vedantic philosophy, and the other 2 parts, that's the second line, definitely gives a beautiful example in order to make you understand this Vedantic principle. So this is a second feature. Then it has this kind of a thing. So mind can easily connect and assimilate that principle also. So this is a second feature. Third feature, as I told you, this is being in a verse form, and that too in a very simple language. So you can by heart. So all Vedantic principles can be at your fingertip, because these very simple verses are there. And like many of you must have, Swamiji, where is the question of by hearting everything? But some of the Bhagavad Gita chapters you might be remembering also. It may be in your memory, chapter 12, chapter 15, like that. Some people have even memorized few other chapters also. So these are also partially you can even memorize. And and every verse has example also, every verse talks about Vedantic principle also. And so very easily you can remember all the principles. So this is a third feature. Even simpler than Viveka Chudamani. I tell you, in Viveka Chudamani there are verses, but we cannot even categorize them as verses. It looks like a prose form. Atmabodha, of course, is totally prose. You have never seen any shloka kind of a thing, verse in that form. Entirely it is in a prose form. So compared to that, this is a advantage here. It's a very important feature in this text called Atmabodha. And even, for the people who are interested in Sanskritam, maybe less, but then, it's a very, very important exercise book for Sanskritam. Simple Anvaya is there, simple syntax is there, and there are forms, different forms are there in different vibhaktis, samasas are there, and so that can work as an exercise book also. Anyway, these three important features are there: comprehensiveness, examples, that's the second feature for every principle, and the third feature, it's in a verse form, easy to memorize, easy to remember. Now the question is, why Atmabodha? What is the difference between Atmabodha and Atmabodha? People are asking that question also. And why Atmabodha and Atmabodha, both if you consider as an introductory Prakarana Grantha, why not Atmabodha first and Atmabodha later? Why Atmabodha is taught before Atmabodha? So that kind of question is there. Many people have already asked since it has been announced. And anyway, the first thing is Atmabodha has many topics, at least some of the topics are there which are slightly advanced. So which beginners may find it little difficult. And therefore, Atmabodha has to be studied as a very, very primary text, if one wants to enter into Vedanta. Then second thing is, in Atmabodha, all the topics are discussed systematically. All the topics are arranged systematically. And compared to Atmabodha, of course, arrangement of topics are very systematic. Like I will tell you in Atmabodha, because we have already studied, so you can remember also. So first we have discussed, if you remember, Sadhan Chatushtaya Sampatti, right? We have discussed that. Second thing is, Jiva's analysis. Jiva's analysis, an analysis of a Jiva. Jiva Swarupa, basically. What's the nature of Jiva? Who is called Jiva? Definitions have been given. Of course, prose form, you know now. Then, who is Ishvara? Well, Ishvara is one who is created this universe. Okay, then the creation comes into the picture. Then what is creation? Etc., etc. And then finally discussing, the oneness between Jiva and Ishvara. And what is the result? Jivan Mukti, Videya Mukti. All the topics are very systematically arranged and in Atmabodha. And progressively developed also. So that is that is the advantage of a Atmabodha. And even in a given topic also, things are arranged systematically. Like suppose if we discuss, a nature of a Jiva, who is called Jiva, then definitely Sthula Sukshma Karana Sharir Abhimani, let's say. Then what is Sthula Shariram? What is Sukshma Shariram? What is Karana Shariram? That also, in a given topic, there are subtopics also arranged properly. If you go back and you will see after the class, you will find this arrangement is very systematic. Then the Srushti Vichara, suppose creation we are discussing. Then what is, 5 elements are created from, subtle elements are created from the Maya, etc. And then from what is the creation of, Sukshma, Srushti. All the creation of, subtle Srushti from subtle elements, that has been discussed. And with the help of that Panchikaranam, etc., then the gross elements are created, and from that gross universe is created, etc. All these things also have been discussed systematically, even a given topic. Like you are analyzing the Srishti, you are analyzing a creation, in that also topics are arranged very systematically. So, well, in Atmabodha it is not like that. So, Tattva-bodha has to be studied, that is how first. And also, certain, as I told you, certain topics are little advanced. So, a beginner may find difficult. So, that way, compared to Atmabodha, Tattva-bodha should be studied first. Now, let's go to the word Atmabodha now, which is a text name. So let's understand the meaning of the word Atmabodha. Atma means, the Swarupa, essence, nature of everything here. So the meaning of Atma as such is Swarupam or content, essence, etc. Like we used to tell also, like the clay is a Atma of, pot. Or say, let's say the gold is a Atma of, that is essence. Gold is a content of, ornaments, etc. Or water is a content of all the waves and ocean and bubbles and everything. So similarly, essence of everything is called Atma. Everything, essence of everyone you can call, or essence of everything is called Atma. Content of everything is called Atma. The truth of everything is called Atma. And so various meanings are given for the word Atma, and we'll take the 4 meanings which indicate this essence. That is, this definition of Atma has been given in a Linga Puranam. And of course, I have not got from Linga Puranam. Bhashyakara himself has quoted this definition of Atma in Kathopanishad Bhashyam. Yaccha apnoti yada datte, yaccha atti vishayaniha, yaccha asya santato bhavaha, tasmad atmeti kirtyate. So, word Atma is derived from 4 different roots. The first root, let us say, let us take Ap. Ap means to pervade. So, Apnoti iti Atma. This is the first definition. What is Atma we are defining right now? Why we are defining Atma? Because the word Atmabodha is there. So, we are analyzing word Atmabodha. In Atmabodha, the word Atma is there. And now we are analyzing word Atma and defining the Atma. So, Apnoti iti Atma. So, Apnoti iti Atma means it is that essence which pervades everyone. And so, just as clay pervades entire clay world, right? Just as gold pervades entire all the ornaments. Same way, Atma is that which pervades everyone. So, yat sarvam apnoti saha Atma. This is how we have to define. Yat sarvam apnoti. That which pervades everything. Everything means everything. Big, small, whatever is there in the universe. That which pervades everything is called Atma. This is the first definition. The second meaning is, yat adatte saha Atma. Yat adatte. Adatte means which resolves everything into itself. The resolver, we can say. So, the word, the root here is a plus da. And definitely from there we can make a form, verbal form, adatte, etc. A plus da has a meaning to take unto, to swallow, to resolve, etc., to absorb. So yat adatte saha Atma, yat sarvam adatte, you can say. Well, Atma is one in which all the names and forms resolve at the time of pralaya. So this is how the second definition. And third now meaning. From the same Linga Puranam, the verse is there. From there only we are deriving these four definitions. So the third meaning is Atti iti Atma. Atti. There is a root called Ad, means to eat, to experience. That is how word Annam also is made from this root. Ad. Adyate iti Annam. That's how Bhashyakara defines in Bhruguvalli. Adyate iti Annam, which is eaten, which is experienced, is called Annam. Even in fact everything. So I am experiencing forms and colors through eyes. So forms and colors is called Annam. And like that sound is the Annam for ears, etc. Anyway, so here a root ad is there. Ad means to experience or to eat, etc. So atti iti atma means atma is that essence, well, which experiences everything. And you know very well. And who experiences everything ultimately is a consciousness. Without consciousness, there is no experience, right? We have seen already in Kenopanishad, Shrotrasya Shrotram, Manaso Manaha, Vachoha Vacham, right? So ultimately, ears are able to experience the sound and eyes are able to experience the forms and everything. I mean, the smell is experienced by the nose, touch is experienced by the skin, etc. I mean, the organ of touch, etc. Well, ultimately, the responsible factor is consciousness. And therefore, so yad atti saha atma, because of which every experience takes place, that is called atma. Where atma is consciousness. And Kathopanishad very beautifully says, yena rupam rasam gandham shabdan sparshanscha maithunan etenaiva vijanati kimatra parishishyate. Well, so yena rupam rasam gandham, well, which experiences, because of which, there it is yena, means by which, rupam, rasam, gandham, shabdan, sparshan, maithunan, etenaiva vijanati, because of which one knows everything, all this, or one experiences everything. That is the consciousness, because of which everything is possible. So so it is in the form of even experience, or also we can say in this body, bhokta, in form of a bhokta also you can say. And well, in the chapter 13 of Bhagavad Gita, this very beautifully Bhagavan said, Upadrashtanumantacha bharta bhokta maheshwaraha. So, the consciousness dwelling in this body as experiencer is really the same as a Maheshwara, that is as a Parameshwara. So anyway, so Atma, well, or this Brahman, whatever, is basically the experiencer in a form of experiencer, in form of witness also you can say. So we have defined three definitions we have already given. Yat sarvam apnoti sa atma, that which pervades everything. Yat sarvam adatte saha atma, that unto which everything resolves, all names and forms resolve. And well, yadatti saha atma, that which experience everything. And now the fourth definition is well, santato bhavaha, that has been told, right? So yaccha asya santato bhavaha tasmad atma, asya santato bhavaha. Santato bhavaha means basically it always is. That is also made from the root at. At root is there. At satatya gamani, that which exists forever. So, well, ultimately Atma is the very existence. That is how it is. Atma is called Sat also, and which is always there. Like pot, we say, you see, the pot is gone, we say the clay is. Pot is dissolved, clay is. So, before the birth of the pot, the clay was, and now when the pot is, clay is, pot resolves, well, ultimately clay is, pot resolves into clay, of course. And so, pot comes and goes, and the clay ever exists. And so, Atma is that which essence, which exists, whether the world, all these names and forms, well, they are not there, Atma is. Names and forms are there, Atma is. Names and forms resolve into Atma, Atma is. Well, where it resolves, there it should be there, and therefore, and so basically, so the fourth definition of Atma is whichever is, which is in the form of existence. See, this is how it has been defined. Yaccha tisa Atma. So it is consciousness, and it is existence also, and it pervades everything, and therefore it is limitless also. So that is how Atma means Satchidananda or Satyam Jnanam Anantam. So this definition of a Linga Puranam is a very, very apt definition which reveals the nature of Atma. And so these are the four meanings of Atma. And in what? In word Atmabodha, which is the name of the text. So this we have seen now. Now the question comes is, well, how can we call the text as a Atmabodha? That's the question. Because Atmabodha means basically self-knowledge, Of course, there is one more question, but we'll leave now, right now, because it will may create a confusion. Because Atmabodha word, Atma means knowledge. We have defined like that. Atma means consciousness, or you can say knowledge. And Bodha also means knowledge. Well, then knowledge, etc. But I would not go in between. We may discuss that. But let's take this question right now. Well, how can we call this text as a Atmabodha? Basically, text means words. And words means it is Chetanam, inert. Like, Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, all. So, Shabda is also inert entity. And then self-knowledge seems to be conscious. And therefore, Atmabodha means Atma means self and Bodha means knowledge. And so, knowledge of self, well, definitely, wherever knowledge is, consciousness is. And therefore, Atmabodha indicates a conscious entity. And you are giving name Atmabodha to the text, and which is in the form of words. That words is basically inert entity. How can you call this text as Atmabodha? Atmabodha is present in your mind. The knowledge of self is there in the mind. So how can you call this as Atmabodha? So we will have to, little clarify it. Answer is, even though this is inert, all the words are inert as such, Grantha is inert, text is inert, but then it serves as a pramanam. It's a means of knowledge to generate Atma-jnanam in your mind. And therefore, figuratively we call it as a Atmabodha. And we as such, very well. The subject, the subject matter in the text is Atmabodha, self-knowledge. Well, so the subject matter, Vishaya, is indicated by the title also. That way also we can say. The title is Atmabodha. What is the subject matter? Atmabodha. Atmabodha is the subject matter. But that, why are you calling Atmabodha to the text? Because it is inert. Atmabodha means self-knowledge, that is conscious. Wherever knowledge is, consciousness is. And therefore, ultimately it's a conscious entity. Okay, but this is a means of knowledge. It will generate jnana. This is called pramana. Text is a pramana. It will generate knowledge called pramana. Okay, now next question. Next question is, why Shankaracharya should write such a text? Answer is, of course, very simple. To gain Atma-jnanam, he has written. So he wants that we should gain Atma-jnanam and gain freedom. Ultimately, we should drop the notions pertaining to limitations, all centered on the self, and for that sake, of course, he has written this text called Atmabodha. And the prayojanam of writing the text is going to prove in the introductory 5 verses. The first 5 verses, he is going to prove it. So in the first 5 shlokas, he introduces this main theme and the purpose of the whole text, and in fact the whole pursuit of a human being also. So we should have a clear idea, basically we should have a clear idea what we are in, what we are going to study, etc., and what we will gain, etc. I'm going to discuss Anubandha Chatushtayam also, so at that time it will be more clear. But that is the purpose of writing a text is to impart self-knowledge through the teaching of Vedanta. Now in these first 5 shlokas, I will just tell you the main 2 points are discussed in the first 5 shlokas. First thing is, he establishes that, our fundamental disease, everyone is born with this infection. It's a real pandemic now. Everyone is born with this pandemic. And that pandemic is called self-ignorance. And that infection, that disease is called self-ignorance. Created by, we can say, ignorance. Virus is what? Ignorance. And because of that ignorance, definitely I am ignorant of myself. That's a disease. So this should be clear in your mind. This is the disease which will be cured through this knowledge given in this text. So the diagnosis must be clear before as such also we know whenever we have a disease, without diagnosis they can't give you medicine. And therefore, first thing is a diagnosis must be very clear. One cannot take, you say that I will swallow whatever the tablets are there. So it may create lots of, basically problem. And so one has to be very careful about the medicine. Depending upon the diagnosis of a disease, one should take. So, you cannot experiment with the medicines. Some people keep, of course, medical dictionary at home, and and they want to look into them for their symptoms. And in fact, if one looks into medical dictionary, it will contain all symptoms that one has. Therefore, basically, such an approach will not work. And even why medical dictionary? Even people search in YouTube, certain symptoms are there, and they search for what kind of a disease they have. They search in certain social media, etc. People get more confused. But anyway, there should be a proper diagnosis. So we should have a very clear understanding of a disease. And Shankaracharya says is that a primary disease you have is the ignorance. And ignorance of yourself, basically. And ignorance of oneself. And what is that? Well, basically you are limitless, Brahman. But you don't know yourself. And that's how you all the time. Because, see, just as the disease, when the disease is there, one remains uncomfortable. One has a uneasiness. Same way this disease, self-ignorance is there, and because of that, the person remains all the time uncomfortable with oneself. Centered on oneself, one has always a discomfort. And one is feeling a lack, one is feeling uneasiness also, all the time. Swamiji, everything is not well with me. They say like that. I have everything, Swamiji, but I don't know. Somehow I feel a void. That's how Alfred Ford. I have just seen one clip of in YouTube just 2 days ago, and then he has become a spiritual person like that. He has turned towards one particular institution, and somebody asked him, "Hey, you are a chairman of such a big company, Ford company, and Alfred Ford, I think." And then he was asked. So he said, "Well, I was having everything, name, fame, and money, and everything. But all the time I was feeling some kind of a void within, and that's how I turned on this direction, etc." Anyway, what I am saying is this uneasiness. Swamiji, how can you call self-ignorance means a disease? Basically, when the disease is there, one remains uncomfortable. In the same way, one remains all the time uncomfortable. In between, few moments come in a waking state, where you get a moment of joy, where you are relaxed, where you are comfortable with yourself. Or else when you go to sleep, then you are comfortable. Otherwise, all the time, whole during lifetime, person remains uncomfortable because of a lack within. All the time centered on the self, he all the time he is a self-conscious being, and he finds all the time himself a limited being. And therefore, that sense of inadequacy will keep you all the time uncomfortable. That's how self-ignorance is the disease, which has created this inadequacy, sense of inadequacy, not inadequacy. Please understand this. A sense of inadequacy. You are not inadequate and you want to become adequate. That's not possible. One can never become an adequate. So far as one considers oneself as having a body-mind sense complex, and that is the self, if one says, definitely one is not going to be an adequate person, because these are the things which are all the time inadequate. Anyway, but there is a sense of inadequacy centered on the self, and that has to go. That goes only when the disease goes. That self-ignorance goes, and therefore. And not only this disease, certain other characteristic of the disease also are manifesting. What? Well, definitely you have that sense of missing. So you miss the place, you miss the object, you miss people, you miss the newspaper sometimes. Well, all things you are missing all the time. And then, well, definitely from there is desire is born, kama is born. And then you, in order to fulfill that desire, well, definitely you work upon, you do karma, etc. And if you don't get your desired object, the krodha also will arise, anger will arise. And if you get your desired object, the lobha, greed will arise. So all these are also, a characteristic of this disease, basically. So anyway, Otherwise, in Vedanta we call them as this kama, krodha and other things, and sense of inadequacy, etc. All this is called adhyasa. We call them as adhyasa, superimposition. Basically, you are adequate, you are limitless, but you superimpose upon yourself. You know the reason, of course, that due to identification with the body, but then ultimately a sense of inadequacy is a superimposition on yourself. And therefore it is called adhyasa. That's a main thing. It's a fundamental point which is called adhyasa. Even kama, krodha, etc. and etc. also is adhyasa. So adhyasa means feeling incomplete because of ignorance. And this is the first fundamental thing we should know. This is a diagnosis. All this is due to ultimately self-ignorance. So most of the Vedantic text talks about adhyasa. That this fundamental point. And Atmabodha also begins with that adhyasa. Even our Brahma Sutra also Bhashyakara begins Brahma Sutra with adhyasa bhashya. Anyway, so a sense of incompleteness due to ignorance is the diagnosis, right, of this disease. And once the diagnosis has been made, the next step is medication. So ignorance is a virus and it can be destroyed by the vaccine, and that is Atma-jnanam. Atma-jnanam is aushadam. So this is how, this is the first point. From the first 5 verses of this text, we can derive 2 points. One point is this, diagnosis of a disease plus a medication. Because disease is self-ignorance, then solution must be what? Vaccine which can remove the disease is jnana, and therefore knowledge of the self. You can call Atma-jnanam, you can call Brahma-jnanam. In Viveka Chudamani, Shankaracharya calls Brahma-jnanam as a aushadam, medicine. Ajnana sarpa dashtasya brahmaushadham vina, etc., etc. In, I think, verse number 62 or something, he says like that. So Brahma-jnanam is a medicine. And there, of course, Ajnanam he considers as like he equates as a snake, and this Jiva is as though affected by this bite of the snake called ignorance, etc. He defines in that way. Anyway, so this is the first point from the first 5 verses. The second point is any treatment, definitely requires some preparation on the part of patient. Of course, diagnosis has been done. Medicine also is ready. Everything is ready. It has been determined what kind of medicine should be given. But the patient should be ready for that. So patient must be able to stand this treatment. Otherwise, this treatment could lead to some further disorders, or it can generate even a new disease. Sometimes a medicine is given for some disease and kidneys fail or something else happens. Person goes for getting a medicine for stomachache, and he takes that medicine and he gets a lot of nausea and he gets a headache. And whenever he takes medicine, he gets headache. And that headache does not go even by the taking medicine of headache. So this is how. So basically, when a person tries a new medicine, being unsure of the course of treatment to be pursued, they try always a new drug. Then as a result, patient gets some new kind of a disease. I think they call it as a triogenic disease or something. But doctors are there, so from Urmilaji I will come to know. So iatrogenic. Okay, my pronunciation may be little but here and there. So means disease leads to disease. Yeah, when you are treating a one disease, it will lead to another disease, further worsening the situation. That is the so patient should be ready. Medicine is there. Even diagnosis also has been done, but then basically a person should be ready for that. And that is how in Shastra they always call Anabhyase visham shastram, ajirne bhojanam visham, visham sabha daridrasya, durjanasya subhashitam visham. It says here beautifully, many people must be knowing this also, this subhashitam. Anabhyase visham shastram, for an untrained person, unqualified person, the scriptural knowledge, of course, is poison. It is not going to work because the person is not ready. Ajirne bhojanam visham, for a person suffering from indigestion, food would be poison. Visham sabha daridrasya, for a poor person, an assembly of a people, is a poison because he would feel definitely an inferiority complex in the company of so many people who are well-to-do or wealthy. And durjanasya subhashitam visham, and a good advice given to a wicked person, definitely is visham, because he will not like that disease. And he will not like that advice. So same way Shastram, if it is entered into an unprepared person, he will not be able to digest it, and that Vedanta could be a problem rather than solving the problem. Disease disease leads to disease while during giving a treatment, that kind of thing will happen. Bhagavan also said in Bhagavad Gita very beautifully, Na buddhi vedam janayet ajnanam karma sanginam joshayet sarva karmani vidvan yuktas samacharan. Na buddhi vedam janayet ajnanam karma sanginam. A wise person, who is establishing, who is establishing the self, who knows himself as a limitless self, he should not unsettle the mind of these ignorant people who are attached to the action. They don't want this treatment, then they are not prepared for this treatment or for not ready for receiving the knowledge. Na joshayet, na buddhi vedam janayet. Definitely, this wise person should not try to give the knowledge to such people who are not ready. So Shastram should not be given to an unprepared, unqualified mind. What I am discussing, understand that. I am discussing 2 points, which is the essence of the first 5 verses. So one point I have discussed, and that is the basic disease. A pandemic is a self-ignorance. And the medication is Brahmajnanam or Atmajnanam. That's correct. But even if the diagnosis is done and the medicine is ready, the patient should be ready for that. And so that we are discussing. The patient should be ready. And here in the Vedanta's case, the preparation is required in order to, so that doctor can administer, Guru can administer the medicine, Brahmajnanam. For that, this Jiva requires a sadhan chatushte sampatti as a preparation. It requires. And so, also, a person who has to undergo operation, before they operate, they carry out so many tests, that to indicate that the patient must be ready for the operation in order to make him cure from the disease. So same way, here also sadhana chatushte sampatti, etc., the parameters. The parameters in this person, one who wants to receive the knowledge and who is affected by the disease of self-ignorance. In him there are certain parameters should be present. Then only this Jnanam medicine can be administered into him. So Shankaracharya begins with these preparatory steps in the first shloka. And so only those who are basically prepared with these 4 steps, or 4 parameters, let's say, would be deemed to qualify to enter the Jnana, which is meant to remove the disease called self-ignorance. So with this introduction, let's enter into a text proper. Let's read verse number 1. Tapo bhikshina papanam shantanam vitaraginam mumukshunam apekshyoyam Atmabodho vidiyate. So this first verse is the introductory verse, introducing the qualifications, preparation on the part of the patient, so that this medicine, Atmabodha, etc., self-knowledge can be administered into him. So the one who wants to gain Atmabodha, self-knowledge, he should have this fourfold qualifications. As such you know, but we'll discuss in brief. And it also indicates, this verse indicates what type of qualification one should have to gain Atmajnanam. That's one thing. And also indicates how to acquire this fourfold qualification. Both the things are discussed here. So fourfold qualifications also are discussed, and how to acquire fourfold qualifications, sadhan chatusha sampatti, that also has been discussed here. You know what are those fourfold qualifications, you know very well. Viveka, first thing. Second thing is Vairagyam. Third thing is Shamadhi Shatka Sampatti. And fourth is Mumukshutva. And they are very compulsory. I mean, patient has to be ready. If he fails in a certain test before operation, well, operation will not take place, and so he cannot be cured from the disease. So definitely these fourfold qualifications are necessary. Without that, Atmajnanam will not take place. So in order to receive the medicine, Atmabodha, self-knowledge, well, one requires that. That's correct. And after receiving also Atmajnanam, Atmabodha, well, one should be able to retain it also. So receiving and retaining, both are required. And therefore for that these fourfold qualifications are necessary. And fourfold qualifications, before I go to the verse, will independently little discuss. So you know very well all this, I need not have to talk to you. But in just to, bring to your memory, I will discuss that. What is the first qualification is Viveka. And Viveka has been described, you know very well, as in Tattva-bodha as a Nitya Vastu Viveka. We generally call it as a Purushartha Viveka. So Purushartha is what is desired by the person is called Purushartha. Purushahi arthyate iti Purushartha. And Purushena arthyate. So a person desires different things, and all these desires are reduced to few in this inquiry. So like the pursuit of money, power and etc. and other things is reduced to artha. We generally call securities. The pursuit of pleasure in varieties of the forms, there are aesthetic pleasures and there are gross pleasures and whatnot. So all the forms of pleasures, we reduce to one. For this inquiry, for this Viveka, for this discrimination, all the pursuits of pleasure, we put into one. We call it as a kama. And there is a pursuit of dharma also, and that is for one's own growth. And dharma is a value, of course, of its own right, and it will make you emotionally mature. That's one of the meaning of dharma. I am doing what is right and avoiding what is wrong. That's all. Not going by one's own likes and dislikes, but going by what is universal. What is universal, and not going by one's own likes and dislikes is called dharma. This is a very simple definition. Going by what is universal. And conformity to this dharma is, of course, and it will make you grow, because you are not killing as such, but you are not giving importance to your own likes and dislikes, and therefore definitely you will grow. The person who is emotionally immature is basically having so many likes and dislikes. We will not discuss in detail too many things, but this is how we have of course discussed all this Purushartha in Tattva-bodha also at a great length. Anyway, so dharma, one of the meaning of dharma is this conformity to universal values. Second meaning of dharma is a punyam. And so gaining some grace by which one can attain something here or hereafter. And for what? Just to create more conducive situation in which one will be more happy, more secure, etc. So this is also called dharma. So this, several pursuits of human beings are there, In my life, I have many pursuits like you have your own pursuits. But all these pursuits, basically, all can be classified into 4 groups. Dharma, Artha and Kama, and 4th is Moksha. Now, if you analyze that in this 4 Purushartha, actually there is a 1 Purushartha. That's a discrimination. That's what we want. They are describing 4 Purushartha is not a part of the qualification of Vedantic student. Basically, because he is seeking moksha, so he should understand that there is only Purushartha, only pursuit called moksha. And there are no other Purusharthas. One has to understand, then only one will be able to drop pursuit of Kama, pursuit of pleasure, pursuit of security, pursuit of Dharma also is, dropped. When you understand that behind all the Purusharthas, there is only 1 Purushartha, that is moksha. And we have discussed, of course, but I will tell you in general. See, when we seek a security, it means one feels insecure. That's for sure. One is not able to stand on one's own legs. That's how you want crutches. That's how Puja Swami described. All the securities, so-called securities are my crutches. And why Swamiji says is there is a reason. That even though you take a support of a crutch in order to stand, but you don't like crutch. But since you can't stand on your feet, that's how you take a support. That is what exactly securities are. You don't want securities, but what can you do? You all the time in your awareness, you are feeling insecure. The insecurity is all the time there centered on the self. And that compels you to have a pursuit of securities. So basically you want not securities, you want a freedom from insecurity. That is how nobody is happy with whatever the securities one has. Nobody is happy, or nobody is even secure with whatever the securities, so-called securities one has. Even he has pursued a lot of money, and he has the money, but yet money is not giving him security. Basically the same sense of insecurity is there, then he employs other means now. He pursues something else. People seek security in power. After seeking security in money, the insecurity has not gone, then they seek something else. So this person, basically the person who wants into the palace of Vedanta has to be very clear what human being wants, not me. I want that's there. But any human being, what he is pursuing a certain objects of security. Basically, nobody is interested in a given object of a security. That's his superimposition that this particular object is giving him a security. Basically, I am feeling insecure. Center on the self, there is a insecurity, and I want to be free from the insecurity. If I am free from the insecurity, I don't like to have crutches. Definitely. I would like to stand on my own. No one wants crutches. That is the thing. And therefore, basically you want freedom from insecurity. You want moksha from insecurity. So please understand this. No one wants artha. Between artha and kama, he has done a discrimination of that basically I want moksha, not artha. This is one thing. We have discussed this also, you know very well. Same way what obtains is, I am not the happy being. I am uncomfortable with myself, etc. I am having a discomfort, and therefore you are seeking freedom from basically not happy self, discomfort self. And for that purpose you try to pursue several objects in which you have superimposed happiness. And that does not give you happiness. That does not remove a discomfort. And that's how you drop that object and you pursue some other object. That's what I am telling you. That basically you are not interested in objects. No one seeks an object for the sake of object. Everyone seeks an object for oneself. And that self which is discomforting self. I am having a discomfort, I am having a lack within. And so I am trying to do varieties of the means, not knowing. Of course, self-ignorance is there. And therefore I am not knowing that basically I am free from everything, these problems. But one doesn't know, and therefore one employs external means. These are the pursuits. So basically between kama and moksha also, one really wants moksha. One has to discern this. Vedanta, the study of Vedanta becomes very effective, and a commitment to this study will come when this Purushartha Viveka is complete. That basically, and then such a person's mind will not go anywhere. He will not be, in fact, affected also. Somebody is pursuing wealth, and then someday if I think, well, what I am doing, studying in this, and ultimately this is all intellectual stuff, and I should have also pursued some money, and I would have a more comfortable life and this and that. What I am saying is, one has to be very clear about the pursuit, what one wants in life. And not me. A human heart wants what? He really wants a artha, security, or a different pleasures, or he wants a freedom. Freedom from insecurity, freedom from unhappiness. Anyway, and same Dharma Purushartha also is like that. It definitely makes you grow emotionally, but it will not make you free from the sense of limitation, because you are still an individual, right? Ignorance is there. Of course, you have gained a certain qualification through Dharma Purushartha, but a sense of inadequacy has not gone. And not only that, you have not become free from the sense of mortality also. The fear also is there. You are still an individual. And therefore, Dharma Purushartha, so far if you take into that conformity to the universal values, etc., it is really good. And you will gain a certain independence, because you will not be under the hold of your own likes and dislikes. So you have a say over your own desires, correct? But still, you are an individual. You have a sense of mortality centered on the self. And so you have a fear. And being an individual, you have a sense of limitation also. You are feeling a lack within. And therefore, definitely, this Dharma Purushartha, between Dharma and Moksha also, ultimately one wants Moksha. If Dharma is suppose translated as a Punyam, then Punyam will be converting into a future, securities and some good objects of happiness you will gain. Then you remain the same samsari. So ultimately, between Dharma and Moksha also you want Moksha. And therefore, Moksha is the Purushartha. Not that Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, 4 Purusharthas are there, and Moksha is the prime Purushartha. Other 3 Purusharthas are there, but they are subservient. No. It's not that. After discrimination, Nitya, Nitya Vastu, Viveka, definitely one comes to know that I want Moksha alone. Moksha is the Purushartha in everyone's life. Nityam means Moksha, Anityam means all other 3 Purusharthas, and therefore Nitya, Nitya Vastu, Viveka is basically Moksha Purushartha. Is Purushartha Viveka. Now second is Iha Mutrartha Phalabhoga Viraga, second qualification which is required. Preparedness on the part of this patient, required before Guru, the doctor, administers, Atma Jnanam, etc., that medicine. Before that, I require this. Iha Mutrartha Phalabhoga Viraga. Definitely after this Viveka, you have gained a certain objectivity towards every pursuit, other than Moksha, of course. And then definitely your mind is available now to this pursuit, right? Your mind is available for this pursuit. And so when you are even in the midst of all these things, all these pursuits, but you discover certain objectivity, and it is a dispassion. Objectivity means dispassion towards Artha, Kama and Dharma. You know what you want in your life, they cannot give. That's all. You have superimposed a object, you have superimposed a value on a money, that it is a source of security. Now you are free from that. That's called dispassion. Dispassion is, Puja Swami used to define, dispassion is what you want in your life and what you are doing basically has no connection. So what I am doing is pursuing money, pursuing name, fame, and pursuing relationship and this and that. And what I want is basically security and happiness, etc. There is no connection. One who discovers that there is no connection, he has a dispassion. Anyway, it's born of discrimination. So, now the person, the one who has a vairagam, he has a less subjectivity. And because he does not superimpose values on things, all this superimposition of a certain value of a security, this is a source of security, this is a source of happiness, etc., is one's own creation. Anyway, so this is the second. Third is Shamadhi Shatka Sampatti. I am discussing qualifications, right? Fourfold qualifications. I am reminding again and again. You feel, where is Atmabodha? But this is, the first verse is talking about this. Sadhan Chatushtayam also talks about Anubandha Chatushtayam. We will see that. Oh, then time is over. Shamadhi Shatka Sampatti. Well, we have to discuss. I'm sorry. I have to, end the class. It's already 10:15. So anyway, we'll see in the afternoon. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.